Sunday morning. Welcome. Happy Easter. Welcome to Breakfast with the Boys. Here we are. Sunday morning. Boy, we look bright and chipper, don't we? I have bright and chipper Shawn over at Moose Jaw. Shawn, how you doing? It must be like 7 a.m.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's 2 hours earlier here. It looks like I picked the wrong day to swear off caffeine.
My God. That's the days I couldn't do that. You can take blood out of me before. And down in Connecticut, I got Muffler Mike. Mike, how you doing?
I'm doing all right.
Happy Easter, boys. Great to have you with us.
You too.
We had a decent week. We had some interesting news this week, though. We're going to get to that in a couple of minutes about the Philadelphia Wings and some possible solutions to it, which are a little bit enthused. We got a number of different things to talk about with milestones that were hit. Of course, no, nothing is complete with us doing our typical, graphic of Happy Easter. Now, I wonder how messy it gets shooting those eggs at the net. Is it chocolate? You'll have to find out, I guess. This one that we have used on our Facebook page, I did some research, and this is actually a company in Delaware that makes chocolate. And a number of years ago, they're still around. And a number of years ago, they did this thing, and I was like, this is pretty cool. So, yeah. Oh, Eduardo's with us. Happy Easter, Eduardo.
Happy Easter, Eduardo.
He's coming to you from lovely Jacksonville. He gets around a lot, He's got that state under his thumb, I'm telling you. But just before we get rolling, just as always, just a reminder that all of our shows are streamed live across Facebook, live across Twitter, YouTube, also Twitch, and you can catch us on Spotify the next day. And if you're looking for our library, we're on there, also on Spotify. Remember to hit the subscribe, follow, and like buttons. Always share. Please enjoy all of the affiliates across the Stream Punk Entertainment Network. If you missed a show, no worries. You can grab all the shows on YouTube, whether it be at Stream Punk Cinema, Stream Punk Combat, Stream Punk Sports, or, of course, at All Across all the time. Please, when you get to All Across all the time, please share. Please subscribe, of course, and please tell everybody about us. What you're going to find when you get there is retro games, interviews, our library of shows, press conferences, fights, and a bunch of other stuff. Please give it a look. Give it a sight. Remember, you can stay up to date with all sports by visiting streampunkentertainment.com with great articles from our huge staff of contributors. Also, a reminder, the show is brought to you by 60, which is more than just a number. 60 is Canada's newest and most exciting sports uniform and teamwear brand, delivering top quality uniforms and teamwear that reflects the spirit and identity of each team. Their commitment to innovation and excellence sets them apart, ensuring that every customer experiences the perfect blend of style and functionality. Unleash your greatness with 60. Remember, add Lax Talk 10 to every single one of your orders, so that you get a 10% discount on your order. And if you're talking about U.S. funds, man, that's a big savings. Anyways, how do you get there? You can, first off, go to the QR code in the center of the screen. Secondly, you can go to Instagram at sweet_60. Thirdly, you can hit them by email at info.sweet60@gmail.com. Or lastly, go directly to their website at www.sweet60.ca/60. Jim and the boys will take care of you and work it out with them. They do some fantastic work. Alrighty. Just a reminder that coming up very quickly now is Lacrosse Day for our champions in Peterborough, May 30th, 2026. All day long over there by the Peterborough Memorial Center. 9 a.m. members of Lacrosse Peterborough will be having a game. Later on in the day, you're going to have the Legends of Lacrosse game at 4:30 in the afternoon. And the big thing to circle on your calendar is at Sticks across the street from the Memorial Center is a little pub there. And it's 7 p.m. story time by the Legends. This is admission free. Well, of course, you might want to have a beverage or two. Maybe some good food there too. Excellent place. But also, to be sitting there and listening to the stories from the Legends is priceless. I love it. I love going up there and just talking, having a couple of pints, and just discussing yesteryear. And just you sit back and just in amazement, and you're just regaled. And that's exactly what this is. So please put it in your calendars, May 30th, up in Peterborough. Hopefully you can make it. It is only 2 weeks away, guys. Not just the beer, but the Rabeski tournament. There too. Don't forget the cups. A little bit of news this week, other than the Wings. Aaron Bold is going back and coaching with Victoria as one of the coaches on the bench there. This is going to be big. Goaltending coach there. Nice to see Aaron to get back. Nice to see Aaron to get back into things at the WLA level. All right, we mentioned about the Philadelphia Wings, and last Monday we were all taken off guard a little bit. We've been talking about this for a couple of years now, but it was made official that Comcast has said, no thanks. And here is their statement. Following the 25-26 season, we have made the decision to cease operations of the Philadelphia Wings franchise under the Comcast Spectator portfolio. This was not an easy conclusion to reach and is one we consider with great care. Since the Wings' reestablishment in 2017 and return to the turf in 2018, the team has proudly carried on Philadelphia's rich lacrosse tradition at the highest level. We hope you will join us in continuing to root for our players as they pursue new opportunities throughout the league. On behalf of our leadership team, players, and the countless others who have been impacted by the Wings franchise over the years, thank you. We truly could not have built this community without you. We recognize that this news may come as a disappointment, and we want to express how grateful we are for your steadfast dedication to the team. Your support has been central to the identity of the Wings, and it has meant more than we can express. Thank you sincerely for your passion, your commitment, and the community you help build around Wings Lacrosse. Well, the message that comes across there is the one about cheering for your, players elsewhere, and that's got a whole lot of people going, whoa, right? But quickly, the league answered with the National Lacrosse League today announced that Comcast Spectator will transition out of ownership of the Philadelphia Wings franchise following 25-26 season. The league has already initiated a comprehensive process to identify the next ownership group and evaluate the strongest long-term market opportunity for the franchise. This transition represents a strategic step in aligning the club with an ownership group and operating environment positioned to maximize its future potential. As part of this evolution, the league is prioritizing markets and venues that offer enhanced flexibility, fan engagement opportunities, long-term growth alignment with the NLL's broader business trajectory. Our priority is to position this franchise for sustained success and long-term value creation. We are actively engaging with prospective ownership groups who share our vision for growth, community impact, and competitive excellence. The league's momentum continues to build as we are confident this transition will lead to an exciting new chapter for the franchise and its players. Well, that is a lot to take in. What do we gather from this? Mike, what's your take on all this?
Certainly, I hope that they're able to find some sort of owner, whether locally or in any of the cities that we've previously discussed for expansion.
Yep.
To take on, I'd much rather see another ownership group step up, take control of the team, and keep the team, for lack of a better word, intact, than to see another dispersal draft.
Yeah, I think a lot of us are under that thing that we don't want to see another dispersal draft by any stretch, let alone all the jobs that are gone with that, both on the floor and off the floor. Shawn, what's your take on this?
Yeah, I'm kind of, right with Mike. And, we always talk about, how much talent there's out there that's not playing in the NLL. I mean, if you take Philadelphia out of that, as you mentioned, that's, 24, 25 more players that aren't playing, potentially not playing in the league because we have one less team.
Right.
And again, like Mike said, I mean, we kind of, like you mentioned before, I guess, Gary, like we kind of saw this coming before a little bit. It wasn't really much of a secret that Comcast was talking about getting out. But I think we're just still kind of holding out hope that they can find still a local owner and keep, the Wings in Philadelphia, or as we'll get to, kind of in the area at least. Because I think, again, the last thing we want is another dispersal draft and losing another team.
Right, because it kind of puts a big kibosh on all the expansion that we had a number of years ago. We were so excited about is, we expand by 4 and we lose 2. That's not great. And how many moves have we had in the last little while as well? Interesting thing is, the number of rumors, of course, circulated immediately. And that was, we've heard for forever Laval. But to me, that's just a death punch to Ottawa because they're so close. And the fan base isn't huge in Ottawa already. So we've heard Edmonton. And, that also makes sense. Now, a lot of it is they want to keep it in area. And the 2 places that came later in the week that Loose Mesh podcast first brought out, and I have their graphics, and I want to thank Dawson, and I want to thank Frick for allowing us to use them, is first off, Trenton, New Jersey came up, and we've heard about that before in a decent arena, not far from Philadelphia. The problem I see with Trenton is that they would have to rename and remarket because it's not a Pennsylvania team anymore. Hard to call it Philadelphia when it's in New Jersey. It's one thing, when it's Toronto over in Hamilton and it's same province, same road, but you're going into a different state now, which brings up the other one that we had heard. Also, thank you to Loose Mesh Pod for this one. Was Lehigh Valley in Pennsylvania, which is by the Poconos. It's about 90 minutes from Philadelphia. Still very attainable for people to get to. It is also where the AHL affiliate for the Flyers plays, and they have a 10,000 seat arena, and it would work very, very nicely there. A little bit of a trek, but hell, I'm trekking to Oshawa and trekking to Hamilton to get games, so none of them are in my backyard anymore. So you got to do what you got to do, and fans will flock to games. That's just the way it is. As well as it'll build in probably more of the rural areas, expanding the game more so. I would take either one of those over losing it altogether in the area if I'm a Philadelphia native, personally. Mike, what's your thoughts?
I mean, my preference is to try to keep it as local as possible. And my reasoning behind that is, you've been marketing basically the past 2 years with your 2 biggest stars being American players in Brennan O'Neill and Michael Sowers. So, to get relocated, whether it's Laval, whether it's Edmonton, I'll go ahead and revive Winnipeg because it should be revived. I mean, it died after the beginning of the first wave of expansion, but to have your 2 bankable stars and the guys you're going to build around and probably market around, not be at all familiar with a Canadian city. It's just going to be a tough road for the marketing department if they're moving north of the border.
Right. Shawn, your thoughts?
Yeah, I was actually going to even double down on that, Mike. I mean, we've seen them build this team around American players just in general. I mean, most of that roster is American players. And if you moved up north, I mean, with that being said, you could see a situation like Halifax where you saw some guys just not want to move and ask for trades and get traded off. And then just did we get really any much further? I kind of like the idea of Lehigh Valley. At least in that case, too, you maybe don't necessarily have to remarket. You can still call them the Philadelphia Wings. And I mean, you have a decent sized arena. I mean, that's really all you need is a 10,000 seater, really. You don't need anything much bigger than that. So I'm again right with you guys. I think staying local is probably the best bet. I mean, for a number of reasons, also just the fan base itself. You feel for them if this team has to move, having to go through how many renditions of the Philadelphia Wings now. Eventually, fans are just going to get fed up. So that's kind of, I guess, where I sit on this.
Right. Well, you take a look at between the two Philadelphia Wings teams, they've covered a good part of the Atlas now, really. But I do hope they stay in Lehigh. I do want to keep the Wings as the Wings. If they can find something in the Philadelphia area, great. But I don't see that happening. I just don't see cost-wise. And where are they going to put them? Right. I'm sure there are places, but I think this was a pretty much a slam dunk. If for everything to be ready-made for lacrosse, and to have these guys being able to get to the games. Again, we've lost 2 of the U.S. teams to Canada recently, and I don't want to see. I'd like to see expansion up here in Canada. I don't want to see more teams evading from the U.S. because that's starting to make me think that it doesn't have sustainability in the U.S. And that's 330 million people that you want to make sure are watching if you want to grow this game. And best way to have them watch is to have it live. So, I don't want to see it come out of the U.S. And as for U.S. players, well, I'm kind of on the fence with that one. Who's the biggest star on the Rock right now? It's C.J. Kirst. I don't think he has much of a problem. Come on over. They'll play where they play, right? And it's you want a job, this is where it is, right? There's only so many jobs out there right now, and until there's expansion where there's more jobs, and it's tough to talk about expansion on one hand while we're trying to relocate another franchise and just lost one and relocated another one and just found an ownership for Rochester last year going through the same thing, which is the other thing is, do we get another thing like Rochester? They were basically 2 steps out of the National Lacrosse League, and at the last minute Seneca Nation stepped up, purchased them, and probably will rebrand them next year. But they are, at the time being, the Green Nighthawks. I just have a feeling you're going to see a new logo again. They're going to put their stamp on it. But they own the team. The team didn't go anywhere. So is there somebody there in the Philadelphia region that will come in the 11th hour and keep them there? More drama for our off season, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Have we had a season where we haven't had this drama since before COVID?
Well, that becomes the next question, right? If you have this last minute ownership, do you see stuff like free agency pushed, back?
Well, yeah, we had that with Rochester. Everything went back almost to the season, which really changed the perspective of free agency when you've already had your team set, let alone the CBA, right? At least we don't have that on the table.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't think that it would really hammer free agency too much because whether you have a team or not, the rest of the league doesn't care. They're going to go about their thing. And you'll go about your thing. And then if there's no team, we're going to disperse them.
Well, except for the fact that if you're any other team in the league, you'd want to know whether those players are going to be available.
Yeah.
I assume. I guess.
And you also go and look at the
draft. If it's not happening, it's going to be a dispersal draft anyway. So you're going to.
I don't really see that being a point. But
and the other thing you have to look at is the entry draft too. I mean,
well, I look at it for scheduling, and you need to know who's coming and where you're going for your flights, especially now with fuel being $10 million a liter or a gallon, depending where you are, and where you're headed, if you are headed, and how many bye weeks there are, and how many teams there are, and how many times you're facing other teams, and that whole schedule would have to change if you're losing a team, right? So let's hope that things are worked out long before September reveal, which would be your draft and your schedule reveal, right?
Yep.
And then they deal with whatever free agents they have. Because don't forget, they also have pending things from trades with other teams recently down the road a bit. So we'll work about that. Oh, look, my coffee has arrived. Thank you. That's very hot coffee. Now it truly is breakfast with the boys. Thank you. Alrighty.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I guess I was just looking at it from the standpoint of, these players just, is it going to be dispersal? Is it going to be, are they going to be just become free agents?
Right.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that are up in the air on that, but I don't think it really will be the big grand effect, because I think they would be going with what the team is as now. And then if it's not a team, then they just, because you're going to take free agents out of it, it's still a team until it is not. And same thing with coming to the draft. It is a team until it is not, which is why you want to get it sorted out before this. But I don't think it'll affect free agency. It's not like the CBA where you don't know if you're playing. You have 13 other teams that will be playing.
I guess I just bring up the entry draft because it's looking like Philadelphia could have that first overall pick, so that could be
change things. Calgary's working very hard. That first overall pick, which means that Toronto gets that first overall pick.
Well, that's the thing. If Philly folds, then
look at that. The sun just came up.
Looks like if Philly folds, suddenly Calgary gets that. Calgary/Toronto gets that first overall pick, which makes things even more interesting.
Yeah, because they don't need Spalina. Who would they take? Because don't forget, Ty English comes also this next year, right? So Spalina, where he would be a slam dunk for Philadelphia, would not maybe be the one that they're looking for in Toronto.
Well, I think we need to slow that roll just a bit. I mean, sure, Oshawa won last night, but they play Calgary again. They lose again now. You have a split series there. Oshawa's still in the mix here, which means Ottawa is in the mix. And Ottawa could use Joey Spalina on the right side.
They could. But anyways, we're getting way ahead of ourselves. We haven't got a team in Philadelphia. We haven't lost a team in Philadelphia yet. So anyways, let's get on to some happier news. We talk about, we've got a few clinchers already, right? We've talked about Saskatchewan and Vancouver and Colorado as clinchers. Well, we have 3 more to join them. And one that really wasn't much of a surprise and really was, that'd be Georgia coming in there. They should have already clinched, but they had to wait for Rochester to lose just once more because they could actually catch them. How? I don't know, but, anyways.
Because they're playing twice in week 21. Well,
yes. So, and Rochester has wowed me with consistency this year. So, yeah, I would put my see my pick'ems, I probably would. But anyways, I think I had them this week. So.
Hey, you can't rule it out after that whole 3% deal with a couple of years ago where
True.
Rochester made the playoffs in the last weekend.
That's true.
Season. So.
True. All right, into more things. There is a Toronto clinched because they needed a Rochester loss and a win against San Diego, and both happened last night. And also the Buffalo Bandits, who we had almost written off about 6 weeks ago. Yeah. And in that time they haven't lost. So they have clinched, and they're looking to get a home playoff game. Toronto severely hampered their chance at a home playoff game last week, losing in Philadelphia. It's still possible, but not probable. But hey, let's get across that when we need to. But those 3 all clinched last night, which leaves but 2 spots available for 4 teams. 6 teams? 6 teams.
5.
5 teams. Somewhere in there. But yeah, we will jump into that as well. A few milestones is Ty Kurtz hit the 100-goal mark for his career last night. Congratulations, Ty. Ryan Benesh, who keeps making this milestone list, now is at 300 games, 4th all time. That's impressive. I wonder if he has the same answer. Ryan, what do you think about the 300 games? It means I'm old. Said that with the goals, right? So, anyways, congratulations, Ryan. Couldn't happen to a nicer guy. I love talking with Ryan. He's just thankful to still be here. This is great. Jake Withers with 100 career points. Ironically, on the same night where he hit 2,400 career face-off wins. That's impressive.
Yeah.
And ironically, this all happened under the tutelage of Micah Kersey, who has coached in 100 career games now. There's a lot of that happening, eh? Clarkey had that a couple of weeks ago, his 100th career thing there. Pretty wild. Nice. Well, I brought up about pick'ems, and well, let's get this out of the way. Shawn, you're still in the lead.
Yep.
Caden with a 4-1 week. He's just pulling it out of the crystal ball there, and the rest of us sitting at 3-2, not really decided what we're doing. And Shawn 71-39 for the year. Pat 66-44 in second. Caden 65-45 in third. And Mike and I still tied. I'm still in the basement, Mike, by a technicality. I was there first. Not there longest, but there first.
I'm reviewing our lease agreement as we speak.
Yeah. Change the locks.
The roommate agreement.
For a way to evict you.
When the worst of us, that's me, is 12 games above 500, I'm saying we're doing pretty good.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah,
I'm sticking with that one. So there's some positive in all this. There has to be. Anyways, let's rock on. We had 5 games this week. Kind of a light week. It's Easter, and well, we'll start off with Friday night. And well, Colorado did what they expected. Well, we all expected them to do. Did we? Yeah, all of us took Colorado, right?
All of us did, though. I think I texted you guys mid-game wondering if we're all underestimating Las Vegas.
Yeah, I remember that, yeah.
Yeah, and then Las Vegas decided to disappear in the second half.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The first time they've done this, right? I suggest the Rochester game in which they did win. However, after an 8-1 lead in the beginning of the game, after 1, they disappeared for 2 quarters. And then it took them actually being behind for them to kind of, refuel the boat and get her started again and kind of pull off the victory. And, they have a habit of not, well, Shawn, you know this one, the not playing 60-minute games.
Yeah.
And how that can affect how everything works. But talk to me about this Colorado game because, it's a late game.
Yeah, so I mean, final was 13-8 for Colorado, and yeah, just kind of like we said, it was tied 5-5 at the half, and looked like this was going to be a real back and forth affair. But then Colorado comes and outscores Las Vegas 8-3 in the second half. For Colorado, I mean, Will Malcolm had the game of games, 5 goals and an assist for 6 points. Andrew Hugh had 2 goals and 4 assists. He had a hat trick from Dylan McIntosh. He had another goal from Braden Saris. Again, Dylan Ward did Dylan Ward-like things. He looked pretty good. For the Desert Dogs, 2 goals and 2 assists from Jonathan Donville. He had 2 goals from Kevin Crowley. Adam Patra had 2 goals and 2 assists as well. 3 assists from Mitch Jones. But I know, Gary brought it up over and over again about Chris Cloutier and kind of how he kind of stirs the drink over there, and he only had 1 assist, so he was kind of shut right down for Las Vegas in this game. And another thing kind of we talked about is the goaltending situation in Las Vegas. Alex Bouquet got the start, uh, 12 goals against off of 40 shots. Lyman Kells did get a minute and 47 seconds of time in, has more kind of at the last minute when they're pulling their goaltender to kind of get a quicker goalie out there. But I mean, like we've talked before, this 2 goaltender system in Las Vegas, is it going to work? I've said before, like I don't know how sustainable it is really. It's one of those things that it's great if you can have both goaltenders buying into the system, but I mean, at some point you think someone's got to get frustrated and say, I want out of here and be a full-time starter and just be done with having to split time with someone else. You never know what it does with the goaltender's confidence as well. Constantly being pulled for another goaltender, also no consistency. So I kind of question that as well. Really, this came down to, like you said, Gary. You didn't get 60. You got basically half a game out of Las Vegas, and a team like Colorado, who's making a push now for first place. They're tied with Vancouver and Saskatchewan at 11-5. They're going to make you pay if you don't play a full 60.
I'm very curious about the Colorado psyche, because I can't figure them out. I think I got them figured out, and they're just white hot, and they're ice cold as quickly as I figure that one out. As soon as you figure they're on their way down the standings, they come up with these gems. And then when you figure you got them figured out again, they come up with a dud, and then they come up with a gem. Do that in a 1-game elimination, and you'll be watching it on television. I can't put my money on this team because, they have all the talent in the world, and they are on paper should be exactly where they are at the top of the league. But what I'm watching week in and week out is a team that could very well take 12 minutes off and go from, up by 4 to down by 3 and not be able to catch up. I watched it live in Toronto. And it's funny because, as soon as we brought that up, they went back up again, right?
And they better figure it out quickly because it's the game, we all had circled on our calendar of next week. Saskatchewan and Colorado, and the way the standings are sitting right now, that's going to be an extremely important game for both teams.
Yeah, and it's funny because, now it's relevant again. 2 weeks ago, it didn't look relevant. And 2 weeks before that, that's when we first started talking, like, this game's huge. This could be for first place. So,
I'm amazed at the peaks and valleys of this particular team. There's a few of them that got me like this one, and Saskatchewan, bring that up as well. They've piqued my interest over the last month or so, also. But I guess it's better to get this out of the way now than in a month from now. You want to be hot, not cold.
Yeah,
Buffalo peaking at the wrong time.
Yeah, you could. Well, I mean,
or do they just win out?
That's a good question. I mean, they've won 6, so now they've won 6 straight. But you lost 5 before that? 5 straight or 5 of 6?
Yeah.
That's the epitome of hot and cold. Like dead hot, dead cold.
And obviously they're, beyond the hottest team right now, but did they get hot too early?
Mm-hmm. That's exactly the thing. Like, when do you want to actually peak? Because you don't want to be peaking, mid-season, go down around playoffs. But at the same point, like you said, Mike, you don't want to peak too early either. Go into the playoffs with that. When's the other shoe going to drop type of thing.
Right. Now, to stay on with this theme, I want to skip past the Halifax Rochester game for a minute. I want to talk about the San Diego Toronto game for a couple of reasons. Number one is, since Nick Rose has come back, he has been almost unbeatable. The one loss that Toronto's had in the 5 games that he has been back from injury, he didn't play. Holochuk was in net against Philadelphia. In those games, he has beaten Saskatchewan, Vancouver, San Diego, and also Halifax. and he is looking sharper now than when he came back. Like, he had 43 shots last night. It didn't seem it because the Rock defense really held San Diego to the outside, but he gave up 5 goals to a pretty powerful offense. You know, Wes Berg was almost an afterthought last night. Really, Connor Robinson. Yeah, we got on the score sheet a little bit, but not by much. Here's the interesting thing. Toronto had 7 goals. 6 of them were from inside. One was CJ Kirsch from just inside the restraining line. But they had 6 goals called back. 6 goals called back for crease violations. Let me say that again. The Toronto Rock had 6 goals called back for crease violations. That means that they're crashing the net and they're going inside. This should worry a lot of teams, including Buffalo, because Toronto's not known to do this. And Matt Vince is not good when you're going into his crease. He gets very upset. When he's upset, he's not on his game. Just putting that out there. Toronto, in essence, scored 13 in this game and had control of this game right from the beginning. They were up 3-0 after 5-1, in at half. And really, even in the second half, when they mounted a little bit of attack, the Seals did, Toronto was at the ready. They didn't panic. They didn't do stupid things. They didn't take a lot of dumb penalties. In fact, a few penalties they took, they held San Diego off the score sheet. San Diego went 0 for 3 on the power play. Toronto went 1 for 3 on the power play, and it was a beauty from behind the net. Josh Dahlweg diving from behind the net, scoring. Again, in close. The defense was solid. I hate day games. I just put that out there. If I haven't said that 100 times already, I hate day games. It screws with your game day prep. Always has, always will. And last week, I watched a lot of the veteran players not know up from down, more or less because their game day routines were messed up. And they just couldn't get in sync with themselves along with the team. So it happens. As long as you don't have a playoff game that's at 1 p.m., you'll be just fine. And here you go, a week removed, and they look stronger than they did 2 weeks ago. And Nick Rose, more importantly, looks solid. And he was in with the passing. He was in with, should I say, stick-to-stick passing. You know, there wasn't any of these dumb passes that get intercepted and things like that. We had some other ones like that. But it's funny because when the couple of times I saw it, there was a defender there with a caused turnover, not 4 seconds later. So they're starting to work with each other. And that's going to be scary for the rest of the teams in the league as well. Who's your catalyst on the team right now? Yeah, Mark Matthews may not be on the score sheet a lot with this game, but boy, oh boy, did he have a big say in this game. Because even the stuff that didn't go in, flip passes and things like that, coming from everywhere, there's no defense that can be settled when he's got the ball because you don't know if he's shooting, passing, running in, running out, setting picks, all kinds of things going on. A healthy, happy Mark Matthews. Then you take a look at, of course, Kirst and Owen Hiltz. They led the scoring last night, and, talk about just being able to use, well, first off, Kirst to be able to use his size. It looks like he's played box all his life. Owen Hiltz, for a guy who's 5'8", maybe, is a tank. He's scared of nothing. He'll set picks. He'll take shots. He'll leave welts with shots from anywhere. And it becomes very deceptive. And, Riglieri never looked settled in this game. They got to him early, and he just didn't look comfortable in this game. Now, Mike, you said the Toronto Rock had all of 28 shots on net in this game. And they won 7-5. How good a game did Riglieri have? Now remember, 6 shots didn't count. And they were goals as well. And a little bit in the second half, they started going back to the outside shooting and started missing the net a lot, which got me a little bit, sit there with my head in my hands going, I don't want to watch this. But they got out of that funk. And as push came to shove, and they didn't get involved in any silly little fracas. United did San Diego. It's a very clean game. Game was just under 2 hours. When you're talking about hardly any penalties and no scoring, you're out before your car gets cold. Interestingly enough. But this is a really, on a number of levels. Toronto, again, Rowlett didn't have a great night at the face-off. You're facing Trevor Baptiste. Baptiste went 12 of 16. Rowlett, that's 4 more than they won in San Diego. Toronto went 0 and 26 in San Diego. And they won that game 12 to 7 or something like that. So we have a good case to. Do you need a face-off guy? It doesn't hurt. But is it be-all, end-all? No. If you have a good strategy around it. But, Westberg had a pair of goals. Zach Currier had 3 assists. After that, really not a whole lot going on.
Yeah, I mean, and it's obviously concerning for San Diego. They dropped to 9 losses now. Same as Rochester and Halifax, but they don't have a tiebreaker on Rochester. I believe, they do have a tiebreaker on Halifax, but they have to go into Georgia now in week 20. And then the big one for them is they have 8th place Las Vegas doubleheader in week 21.
Right.
So, if they do have anything going for them as far as, playoff push, it's going to have to be, them sweeping Las Vegas really at this point, because that will give them enough wins that any multi-team tiebreakers they'll be in good shape for.
Right.
And that includes Ottawa, that includes Rochester, that includes Halifax, that includes Ottawa.
Sure. I do want to give one shout out on this first. It's not all doom and gloom in San Diego. Zach Deacon, he had his first NLL goal last night, and it was on a broken play going coast to coast, and a Deacon dunk over Nick Rose's shoulder. It was just a thing of beauty, and I really like this kid's game. I really think that as a defender and a transition guy, he is going to fit in really, really nicely. But I'm starting to wonder if the Pat Merrill era is coming to an end. We've been talking about it a little bit here and there. The team didn't look very interested. And I didn't see a whole lot of energy anywhere, really. This isn't the San Diego Seals team I watched a couple of years ago.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I'd be concerned. I don't believe San Diego has ever missed the playoffs since coming into the league.
No, I don't think they have.
Right.
So, any viewers out there want to correct me, but
I'm also curious
about
how
they've made the playoffs every single year.
Well, I was going to say too with the playoff thing. Sorry, Gary. The playoff thing too, taking consideration is those years where they were supposed to contend for a cup. They bowed out.
Yeah.
So they never really got over that hump, regardless.
True. But now I want to say, how does that affect the fan base? The fan base has only seen a winner there. How does it affect adversity on a team that understands, a city that understands field quite well? But box is still a niche thing there. And the ones who do go to the games, I've met a bunch of them when I was out there, and they are fantastic people, and they are really eager to learn and eager to do more things. And there's a lot of programs going on, and we've already talked. I interviewed Cam Holding a few weeks ago, and lots of things going on. But how does that affect winning? How does that affect your fan base? Take a look at Saskatchewan in a bona fide fan base area. When they started not becoming the champs anymore, attendance dropped to 50%, really. Right, Shawn?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's
affect it all.
That's exactly what I was thinking at, actually, Gary. That's exactly what I was thinking. Was the Saskatchewan's the perfect example. I mean, you're starting to see the fans start to come back a bit now that they're starting to win. But once you get that losing team, it's just kind of like
Like every post when I see about attendance and I see a Bandits fan on there talking about, yeah, we get 19th. You can go on our YouTube page at All Lacrosse all the time and see some of the early 2000 games, and you could get a seat or a section anywhere you wanted because there weren't many people there. Winning brings a community together. Team is one thing, excitement is another. Winning brings a whole lot of people together. Toronto's winning again. They're just on the verge of 8,000 now for a fan base that started at 5,000 at the beginning of the year. People are getting more interested again. Winning does a whole lot for culture. Losing does a whole lot to really hurt it. I'll give you the Toronto Rock for a perfect example is 2005 when they won their last championship and 16,000 people at ACC. And you put 3 years of not making the playoffs, and by 2009, you were in and around 10, 9, and then it just spiraled from there. And off to Hamilton, they go and try and rebuild. So winning does a lot of things. What happens, especially, and these are settled fan bases. These are long-standing fan bases, know the game, know the team, know the players. San Diego's been there for a bit now, but really, has the area really increased? Have we seen fan base go, oh boy, now we have a full house in Pachanga? I don't think we've seen that yet.
No, we
Always to
haven't.
go
I mean,
for that.
certainly even a finals trip would have helped that, in those earlier years.
That's my concern. There's a lot of talent. There's a lot of upside. They have lost a number of names over the last while, but you still have guys you can market around the Trevor Batista, West Bergs, Eli Goldbrick, Trey Leclerc. There's still a number of names you can market around, and a lot coming up. I would be marketing around Ari Steinhaus. I would be trying to push what Buffalo did with Dad Mark, and again with Origlieri and net, he's going to be there for a while. He's still a young kid.
Yep.
So I just worry that if they're not generating fan base because they're not winning, then they need to get back into the marketing machine. But anyways, let's get back to the Halifax and Rochester game. And this one was interesting, guys? It was one where for a while there it could have been anybody. But we're seeing that Halifax team again that veers its head every now and again. And I can't figure out Rochester again for the life of me, because 1 week they look like they're ready to go and make a run again. And the next week they look like they've just had their third lesson of box. And to me, it's puzzling. And as a fan, it's puzzling because they look really, really good in Oshawa. And not just because Oshawa isn't high in the standings, but because they were doing all the little things. They were doing all the things that Mearnsey wants them to do. And it doesn't look like they pulled it off in this game. What changed?
Yeah, maybe a couple of things. Maybe they came up against a better defense in Halifax. Not that Oshawa's defense isn't solid, but they certainly played a little more disciplined. Getting Trevor Smith back finally helped Halifax a little bit. His first game back this season. They end up winning 15-10. Maybe the breaking point was the second quarter. I mean, Rochester scored early in the second quarter to tie things up at 4, and then Halifax pretty much went off and scored 7 of the next 8 goals, including a 5-goal run to end the quarter that put them up 11-5 at the half. Near the end of that quarter, we saw another goalie switch, from Riley Hutchcraft to Rylan Hartley. I don't think it's necessarily for lack of offensive production. I mean, they got 2 goals, 3 assists from Ryan Lanchberry, 2 goals, 2 assists from Thomas McConvey, 2 goals, 2 assists from Ryan Smith. Connor Fields had a goal and 5 assists. Maybe you want to see more goals out of Connor Fields. Blaze Reardon with a roll, finally. Goal and 2 assists. 3 for 5 on the power play. But again, for Halifax to only give up 5 power plays, that's
That's good for them. Yeah.
considers that a win,
On alert, Dave, we're supposed to have Blaze Reardon on the show this week too, so it should be interesting.
Well, it's funny, Mike. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, Mike, but it's funny just because I was going through the penalties because most of the Halifax's issues usually are just dumb penalties that could be avoided.
Yeah.
Holding the stick, okay, roughing call, slashing, delay game, like those are just penalties that are going to happen through a normal course of the game. They're not quote unquote dumb penalties, right? Like that could have been avoided.
Yeah, not like illegal substitution or just a dead ball foul or something like that. So, they're cleaning it up, and hey, on the flip side, Halifax went 3 for 7 on the power play. So what's Rochester, doing, in the penalty department?
Now, have they saved a Kersey's job because he was on the rumor mill also, as when Hazen was going, that maybe he was going and Hazen was going there. Do you think that they've given him a little bit of breathing room here now?
I think so, and certainly if they can squeeze into the playoffs, I would like to think that that his job is safe.
Right. Now, with Rochester, there's one player I actually want to bring up because I really, really like his game, and he doesn't get a whole lot of notoriety. It's not your Lanchbrays, it's not your McConveys or guys like that. It's Taylor Jensen. And again, he's on the score sheet, and he does everything. He is, going to throw hits. He's going to set picks. He's going to do his defensive chores, and he's going to score you unassisted goals in transition. And I really think that he is a diamond in the rough that we're going to hear a lot about over the next number of years in Rochester. And really is one of the guys in a season that's mired with a lot of things that are not great that has really come to the forefront. And I just wanted to bring that name up because I really, watching him live and seeing a lot of things off ball that he does, it's just, he was a topic of conversation in the press box a couple of weeks ago, just watching everything he was doing. And, there's him, there's a couple of guys in there that are just coming to the forefront now that are going to be names down. I think Nathan Kapp comes to mind as a face-off guy, and just a very quiet, soft-spoken person. But he's going to be part of their future plans as well as things move along. And other guys come and go. A couple of guys are getting longer in the tooth, and they're going to be moving as well. I have a feeling that we're going to see a lot of movement with this Nighthawks team because it's not performing the way it's supposed to. And we had this all touted in the top 4 at the beginning of the season, especially the way they started. Did any of us have on our bingo cards goaltending issues where we had 2 bona fide starters?
Not at all.
That's the funny thing I was going to bring up.
We talked about that being the best.
It doesn't matter who starts.
Overall.
One's getting pulled every single game.
That's why I said I didn't find it funny because I remember last week I was talking like maybe is it time for Hutchcraft to get starts over Hartley, and here we are. Hutchcraft gets the start over Hartley, and what happened? Like it's a head scratcher, right? Like
I don't understand it. And the defense, you're talking about bona fide NLL stars. Granted, a little bit older now. You have Matt Gilray, Ian Lord, Chad Tutton. These are all stars. And, you even have Zed Williams back there now helping out and having that presence and a booming shot in transition. And it worked well in Oshawa, took them off guard. Now, I guess when you can plan for it, it's not so, deceiving. Of course, Dan Coates. and Tyler Biles. And there's a number of guys in there. Biles didn't play in this game, but there's a number of guys in there that are bona fide, that there shouldn't be gaffes. They're too good for that, but yet we're getting them. And at times, I don't think the goaltending is as bad as we're talking about, because I think they're being left hung out to dry.
I mean, it isn't, but it's.
They're not helping themselves any.
Yeah,
but they're not.
This is really strange to contrast, because we've been talking all season, and guess what? Each week it keeps getting worse. That scoring gap.
Yeah,
we're now 185 through 110 games. We're 185 goals behind last year's pace. So here we are talking about scoring is way down, and yet here we also are with talking about Rochester goaltending issues, Las Vegas goaltending issues, Halifax goaltending issues, Philadelphia goaltending issues. That's almost a third of the teams in the league that have goaltending issues.
Yeah.
And for all the talk of, Matt Vince, Dylan Ward, Brett Dobson, Del Bianco, Doug Jamieson, even Nick Rose. I mean, even Toronto. Toronto's almost kind of that gray area where it's like, yeah, there were some goaltending issues. Now it seems like they're resolved, and it's just your one starter, and but it's not. So when you play some of these other teams, it's almost like you're getting almost to the point where half the teams in the league, despite this drop in scoring and this phenomenal.
I hate to bring it up, and Shawn, you may not like me for it, but I'm starting to wonder about Saskatchewan. Skiggs hasn't had the year he had the last two. He's so solid in there, yes, but is it time to start letting Kostiuk try and see if he can?
That's the thing with me is I would have liked to have seen Kostiuk at least started a few more games this year. Not just so much to replace Shiliano, but we've seen him in the past. If he plays too much near the end of the season, he starts to kind of wear down. And we've really only seen Kostiuk start one game.
And now you're in a position where you can't do it, because every game matters now for where you are in the standings because of these few losses that have happened. It would have been great when you were sitting up there before these things with one or two losses. And then if something happens, great. If he wins, great. But at least you see what you got. Yeah. And without it causing you moving down in the standings if it doesn't work.
And that's the other point I was going to make. Sorry, Mike. That was the other point I was going to make, too. When we're talking about scoring, yes, we have all these teams that are struggling in goaltending, but those teams that aren't struggling, and I will even put Frank Shiliano in that, even though he's struggled lately, is these guys are having, under 10 goals against average, just like unbelievable seasons. Yeah. So the teams that aren't struggling, they're putting up ridiculous numbers, and that's maybe what's balancing these out.
Yeah. Yeah, because, it's back to Mike's number with goals scoring down almost 200. These goalies are playing great, but it's magnified to the nth degree because a 7-5 victory, a 6-4 victory. When have you seen this ever? Summer ball. You don't see this in the NLL. This is in the home of the 17-14 game, the 20-10 game.
Yeah, how many times has a team top 20 this year? 2 or 3. I think we had 2 or 3 games.
I think we had 2 this year. And they were both stunning. It was crazy.
We had was it
Vancouver
Vegas?
had one of them.
Colorado had one against Buffalo.
Okay, so maybe we're at 3 then.
Oddly enough.
Yeah, that was in the Buffalo 1.0. Buffalo 2.0 here. We're getting to that game in a minute. Wow. And I watched that game last night when I got home from the Toronto game. And I just sat there and, the first half wasn't so bad. And then all of a sudden there's another gear. But why don't we jump onto that game? Because, wow, there's a lot to talk about there, too, on Vancouver's side. Like, I liked the way Vancouver started this game. They actually took it to Buffalo. They weren't being pushed around. The Beers Priolo fight, of course, is all over the internet, but there was a bunch of other things that were going on as well. Buffalo is obviously showing the feist of being a champion now. They kind of lost that for a number of weeks when they're in that 5-game losing streak, but they've found their mojo again, if you will. The ugliest of ugly Marvel uniforms I've ever seen were what the Bandits were wearing. It was one of those do not adjust your set moments, and I'm not a huge fan of the Marvel thing there. Like I know what the league's doing, and I'm very happy that they have that sponsor. But there's only 1 or 2 jerseys over the years they've done this that have been, man, I'd like to have one of those. And I have one of them, and I'm still, for some of you see me pull it out for anything. I'm not but this was just like, wow. Especially when you're wearing Georgia colors. So the band, that had to be kind of funny. In a sea of orange, you have these yellows.
It was supposed to be Thanos. Vancouver did the Thanos jersey better.
What was kind of funny in all that, though, is, I had to keep reminding myself that Vancouver's wearing white and Buffalo wearing yellow. Okay, that's not Vancouver. It was late at night. I just come home in a rainstorm from Hamilton, and trying to figure out who's on what. But to watch Vancouver in the first half, though they had some gaffes, they looked still pretty good. And Buffalo, of course, is found, like I said, their mojo. Then comes the second half, and both teams shut each other down to a degree, but Buffalo just has that little the end factor. And what happened to Vancouver in here?
Only thing I may be a bit concerned about with Vancouver in that first half is, they gave up that 4-goal run in the second quarter. And again, we know what Buffalo can do, right? That's where they just turn on that switch. Once they get that big run on you, that's when they're on their game. Right. And I guess the other concern for me with at least Vancouver is you had 5 goals. 2 of them came from Marcus Clarich, and 2 of them came from Charles Beatty. So really, you got 2 goal scorers that entire game.
Charles Beatty did early. From that point on, he went on vacation.
Yeah, and I mean, you barely heard from Keegan Ball, which is your all-star there. He's the guy you want to be putting the ball in the back of the net.
Right, and that's
Tavares. He was silent.
Made him right.
Yeah.
So that's kudos to Tavares for that one. But take a look at Mitch Kostiuk. Since he's come back from injury, he's a force. He had 11 loose balls in this game. And something he was doing in Toronto, he's not doing in Buffalo. He's not trying to do it all himself. Before Toronto got rid of him, he had a tendency of grabbing a loose ball and trying to do everything himself and score the highlight reel ESPN goal and more times than not miss the net. Now he's dishing it off after getting the loose ball and doing things in the team frame of things for what the Bandits need or want him to do. And
so he listened to you.
Again. Sorry, Mike?
So he listened to you, finally.
Pretty much. Yes. We're on the phone twice a week.
To help the Rock, or the Wings, for that matter.
Yeah, but twice a week we're on the phone. I call the university where he's doing his research, and then we have just a whole change of aspect of his view of the game, and for the team, it's almost a resurgence in the way he is playing, and he looks younger out there.
Yeah, I will piggyback off that and note that Buffalo is 10-2 when he is in the lineup. They are 0-4 when he is not.
Yeah. He's unsung. I can't say that because we talk about him, but he is as important to the Buffalo Bandits as Ian McKay is. They're not in the forefront of your conversation of the Dane Smith, Josh Byrne, Matt Vince, Steve Priolo, even Matt Spanger. But they are very, very important cogs in which the wheel doesn't work right when they're not in there. Both of them on either side of the ball. And very important pieces to this Bandit four-peat idea. And I'm very curious because again, we're not talking about the young guys on the team. As this thing wears on, the question is, did you shoot your bolt too soon? And you're playing absolutely spectacular lacrosse, team lacrosse, completely high energy, high octane, everybody doing their thing, everybody up, everybody energized, and we're still in week 19. What you needed in week 22 and week 23.
I mean, I'm very tempted to answer yes, but
we've seen it before, though. Right?
I have to answer no because, one, they had to get hot when they had to get hot.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That weekend was either they fell or they
it was that doubleheader weekend with Sask and Toronto, right?
Toronto.
That even a split of that weekend might have turned them into sellers.
Yeah.
Because then at that point, you're still 5-7 versus 6-6.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Chugger was talking about possibly being a seller at that point. He's waiting to see what happened.
Yeah, and had they lost both, they would have been 4-8, and yeah, they probably would have been sellers at that point.
But I also want to talk about what Chugger did when he decided that they are buyers and not sellers. And in a sense, they were sellers because off went Triolo, off went Ron John, off went Kyle Matisse. These aren't like nobodies. These are big names. And all of us were scratching our heads. But in came Joe Resetaritz for a youngster who is going to be a big star, I think. Lucas Nielsen's going to be a big, big thing. But you had guys like Clay Scanlon. You have guys, because Tyler Hendricks, if he's even in the lineup at times, hasn't done anything anywhere since he's left Toronto. And even here, it was like, I thought he was overrated here. So I'm not really sure what the grand scheme of things is there. But, guys like Thomas Whitty, who will do anything. Ian McKay, who's healthy again, obviously. Or when he had that wonky leg or foot or whatever that kept him out for a few games. But you had other guys picking up Desnu when he was out and when he's back healthy and what he can do. Nick Weiss, take a look at what he can do and the energy that he brings, more importantly. Clay Scanlon really is one who's been in and out of the lineup for the last couple of years through all the championships, but he has done everything that has been asked for him on a dime. I think it's even more difficult to be at that position when you don't know if you're going to be in the lineup or out of the lineup, depending by midweek. And then you have to turn it on Saturday morning at shoot around when you're in the lineup. Okay. And you would perform week in and week out that he is in the lineup. You take a look at the stats and he has performed. That you can't find in anybody who's sitting on a practice squad.
And you kind of feel like he's a sponge. Like you said, he's been in another lineup, but he's been on championship teams, so he's just been getting better and better and better, just learning more and more and more from these top guys.
Right. You take a look at a guy like Cam Wires, who will do anything. You need muscle, he's there. You need scoring, he's there. You need back end, he's there. Belter had a pretty good game for the first time in a while. I still worry about the wrong shot, and he's had two severe concussions, right? But he's playing at the peak of his game right now.
Yeah, to kind of finish answering your original question, the other part of that is, by going on this streak when they did, now they're in a position where they may even get themselves a home playoff game because they have a head-to-head tiebreaker over Toronto. They have a head-to-head tiebreaker over Georgia. They have a head-to-head tiebreaker over Saskatchewan. The only actual tiebreaker, believe it or not, where they won't win will be the common opponent's tiebreaker against Vancouver.
Right.
Yeah. In fact,
if they beat Oshawa, they potentially win a head-to-head. I'm sorry, win a common opponent's tiebreaker. Well, the common opponent's tiebreaker with Colorado would be tied if they beat Oshawa in week 21, and then the next tiebreaker. So it's a possibility that they have tiebreakers over everyone ahead of them and everyone just behind them.
Yeah, no, sorry. The point I wanted to get to was, Gary mentioned about getting hot at week 19, but at the same point, it's also week 19. There's only 2 more weeks left in the regular season. I get where Gary's getting. I get where Gary's getting at, and it's kind of like it's tough to say because I see maybe it peaked a little too early, but don't want to peak too late either. Like it's. It's in a really weird spot that they're peaking.
I want to also bring up, they took Matt Vince out with about 5 minutes left, and they put in Konstantopoulos, and he made 4 saves and didn't give up anything in just under 4 minutes of play. Is he getting stronger? Just in case. It is the future, right?
Yeah. I mean,
him and Scott Shognosh.
Yeah, and I mean, and you might as well get him some reps. When you're
up by 10.
Well, yeah. I mean, we just made that look, like it was a bad idea. 2 weeks ago when Georgia did it with Brett Dobson, up 9 with 7 minutes left, and
it didn't quite work out as well.
No, it didn't. So
is Konstantopoulos getting NLL savvy now? Because we've been always talking about, in junior, Minto Cup, he looks pretty good, but is he ready for the next leap, which is a huge leap? And he's starting to look a little bit better, but 4 shots isn't going to define whether he's ready or not. But not having any time sure is not going to define anything either. Yeah. He's got to get game playing time.
Exactly, and they maybe he does against Oshawa in week 21.
That's a good possibility, actually.
Yeah.
Because, when Matt Vince is rested and healthy and happy, Matt Vince is very dangerous, especially in a one and done. I don't put my money against Buffalo no matter what.
No.
Yeah, and maybe especially, I mean, we know Rochester has been all over the place, but, they do host Rochester next week. And it's pretty much...
We thought that was going to be a major game, didn't we?
Yeah. we did, and Rochester won the first contest, obviously, this season. And, they need to win to have any chance of keeping their playoff hopes alive. So, I'd like to believe we're going to see, a Rochester team that's going to be focused and relentless and is going to be playing like it's
they're playing for jobs, right? They're they still have an outside chance, but they're playing for jobs. They're like Oshawa. They're like Calgary. They're playing for jobs.
I mean, they're not eliminated yet, so and
no,
they
but
do
every
have
week
that, they do have that game in hand, like Vegas does,
right,
on everyone else. So,
all right, that brings us to one last game in the week, and that was Oshawa and Calgary. And although it doesn't have any playoff implications, it has a lot of implications. And Oshawa comes out with a 10-9 victory in a really very entertaining game.
Yeah, it stayed close for a good chunk of the game. They do get a late game winner from Ty Kurtz.
His 100th career.
100th career goal. Yeah, and solid numbers kind of all around for Oshawa. They would you believe me if I told you they went 100% on the power play? 2 for 2. They get They get hat tricks out of Alex Simmons and Ty Kurtz. Simmons finishes with 7 points. Ty Kurtz 3 goals and an assist. You get 2 and 2 out of Ethan Walker. Pair of goals from Dyson Williams. 3 assists from Ryan Benesh. Doug Jamieson 42 saves on the night. For Calgary, kind of the usual suspects again. You had Tanner Cook, 3 goals, 4 assists. Tyler Pace had 2 goals and 6 assists. A pair of goals from Hayden Dixon. They did a good job containing Braden Maye, holding him to just 1 goal on the night. Bennett Smith had a goal. But they went 16 for 23 on faceoffs, and they went 4 for 5 on the power play themselves.
Right. This was a point that I was going to bring up with you, Mike, and I want to ask you, because just to humor me on this one. Joey Nardella doesn't get hurt, and he's the faceoff guy for Oshawa. Are they a much more dangerous team this season?
I'd say so.
Because he brings more than just the faceoff, right? He brings grit and he brings transition.
We saw it back in their Albany days.
Any of the other injuries really stands out to me, because remember Albany of a number of years ago when he was hurt, and the following year when he was healthy, they went to the finals. I don't think that's a coincidence. It's a number of other pieces too, but I don't think that's a coincidence.
Yeah, absolutely.
They went down to the beginning of this year. That was a huge hit to what they could do transitionally or even possessionally. And I don't think they've overcome that, even though they've got a number of pieces there. We always trying to figure out, the team is so talented. Why is it not clicking? And even in this with a 10-9 win, why is it not clicking? I think that has a lot to do with why, when things aren't completely in sync. That has a good chunk to do with it.
Yeah, I'll agree with that for sure.
Oh, yeah.
That's why even in Philadelphia, when they lost Batiste, they finally get Roulette. It's puzzling to me why they would trade Roulette. When you finally get, after years of not having a face-off guy, you finally have a face-off guy and you trade him. Now, granted, you want picks, but, fair is fair if you're not trying to dump the ship. But to get back to this point, against a pretty solid Calgary team that's getting better each week. And they're not going to be doing anything this year, but they don't have to make a whole lot of adjustments. They just need experience and a couple of veterans in there to help things along. And there you go. You already have it set. I'm not 100% sold on the goaltending, but I don't think Aiden Walsh has cost him anything this year.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
We're not seeing him get replaced a whole lot this year.
No.
Even after really bad games. So,
and
again, we're talking about another 1-goal loss.
And not to hop back onto the whole goalie thing, but we didn't see this happening to Aiden Walsh in Vancouver either, until they got Christian Del Bianco.
Right.
So, that kind of goes to my point with the whole Vegas thing. They've started Alex Bouquet how many games in a row now? 3 or 4?
Yep.
Yeah.
And granted, they've gone 3-1 in those games, and only just lost this past weekend. But I can say with a fair amount of certainty and on all our behalf that I don't think Sean Williams is looking at Alex Bouquet as the future in net for the Desert Dogs. And now you've started him 4 straight games. And he's done a phenomenal job, but
he has turned a lot of heads from a lot of people who didn't believe why he was even in the lineup.
He's been lifted, a couple of times now.
That's the point I was going to get to. Yeah, they won those 4 games, whatever. But how many of those games was he pulled? Again, they kind of go that 2 goaltender system. They have kind of that. Okay, he's gone cold. Let's have him sit for a little bit and have Kels get some time, and we'll maybe put him back in again a little bit later. And it's a weird system they're running with that goaltending in Las Vegas.
Right.
And I mean, I'm just concerned about what that's doing to Kells versus the example of Aiden Walsh, where, hey, we're behind you pretty much no matter what. You know, I mean, if it's 19-9 losing to Georgia, okay, we're going to give Colby Bowman some reps. Or we're a game where it's clearly out of hand.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, we haven't seen Calgary, you know, putting Aiden Walsh on a short leash. We didn't see Vancouver do it last year before they got Christian Del Bianco. So
because they're young boys that need those reps, right? Like,
what happens to Connor O'Toole? Because if you think he's going to get a spot in Vancouver, you're high. And Del Bianco's not much older than he is. So what, he's looking for, 10 years from now he's going to have a career? I don't think so. What happens here? Does Vancouver dangle him for, whatever mighty picks he can get to a team that needs him, like some of the teams we've outlined?
You might have to, because you've got.
I'm thinking that you can take Rochester out of that.
Yeah.
Because since they fired Dad, I don't think he's going there.
I mean, let's face it.
Dave, happy Easter. Great to have you with us. Thank you for joining us.
For Pete or not, we're probably going to see in the next couple of years the Bandits like major overhaul.
Well, they have.
They may space it out over a few years, but look, okay, kudos to them. They're winning. They may be four-peating as they're getting older and older and older, okay? But, okay, I just heard them say that Kyle Buchanan is 38 years old. I had no idea he was that old. And I watched him play for 4 years in New England. And I had no idea he was that far up there. Okay, so you've got
right?
Yeah.
So you've got a number of guys in their late 30s, and of course you got Matt Vince, who
he's 42.
That's the one that concerns me. Sorry, Mike. I'll let you think about.
Yeah, I mean, for Pete or not, you have to think Matt Vince is probably calling it quits after this year. Okay, I mean the consensus.
Well, he's got nothing left to prove, then, right?
The consensus seemed to be that he was only playing this year because he had the opportunity to four-peat again.
I guess that's where I get my concern, right? Is it seems like Buffalo doesn't really have a contingency plan. Like, yeah, they have Konstantinopoulos, but they don't really have a contingency plan on when Matt Vince retires. And I think that's where you're probably going to have that slide, is once Matt Vince retires, is you're probably going to struggle in goaltending, because I've seen it in other, professional sports. Like, I've seen, football teams where, they've had a long-term star quarterback, so they haven't developed anyone behind him, and then you go on a slide once he retires.
How many backups have we seen in Buffalo behind Vince now? You saw Shanahan. You saw Orleman. You've seen Konstantopoulos. You have Chagnosh there. Interesting. You had a few before Shanahan was there also when Vince first got there. Remember, when Vince got there, he chased out Higgins because Higgins was a starting goalie.
Yep.
Who righted the ship from when Bouquet was there. Interestingly enough.
Yeah, but I mean, once you start to see, this dismantling, if you will, of the dynasty, who's the next team that you're going to peg as too old? It's going to be Vancouver.
Sure. We're already almost there now.
Already there, yeah.
We're the Calgary Roughnecks of 2019. That's already 7 years ago. And even then, they weren't rookies.
So, I mean, to me, unloading O'Toole for draft picks, maybe to Buffalo. Just a thought.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Yeah.
it certainly allows Vancouver to
I think
to, to, to
Colorado
start
comes
their
in that mix
contingency
also,
plan,
though.
to start their overhaul.
Like I say, I think Colorado comes in that mix also, because how many more years are you going to get out of Dylan Ward?
Dylan Ward's not getting any younger. Yeah.
Yep, Ward,
And unlike Matt Vince,
and that back
Dylan
end,
Ward is playing both, right?
Jordan
PLL
Gillis.
and NLL still. Just as an extra added little incentive there, Dylan Ward is still doing PLL, whereas Matt Vince is taking his summers off now. He's not playing for Peterborough.
Yeah, and you have to wonder if we're going to stop seeing that in the next year or two.
Well, I think he's going to have to make a choice, kind of like McCardle and the Schreiber and all these other guys who, as their ages are getting up, they cannot do the 12-month a year thing. The body just doesn't allow you to. Not at that level. You know, it's not Masters, and you're talking about full bore, top of the heap in the world. Lacrosse, and even more so with Dylan Ward playing goal in both. All you're doing is stepping in front of 120-mile-an-hour shots, one with equipment, one without. Neither sound very enticing to me.
Right.
So, you know, throw in all the world championships, throw in all the other things that go on, right? Throw in the Olympics. This is another reason why you're going to see guys hanging around for another couple of years, just so they're part of the lineups for the Olympics in 2028. To maybe be part of the Sixes team for whether it's U.S., Canada, Haudenosaunee, whatever. And then you're going to see the mass exodus. They were there for the inaugural. Now they're off they go into where they're going and accept their Hall of Fame speeches, and away they go. Because short of the Olympics, and whether Matt Vince is even interested in that, what else does he have left to prove? If they win this year, that's 7 championships in the NLL. Throw that in with 4 or 5 championships with Peterborough for Man Cups. Throw that in with Minto Cups. Throw that in with coaching. Throw that in with gold medals for Canada. Really, what is there anything else left to, you know, gee, I need something else on my bucket list. That bucket's full.
Yeah. And would he even be in, like I said, would he even be interested in the Olympics? Because it's more
time off.
The sixes and more time off, and it's more of a sixes. Sixes is more of a closer field, probably. Yeah, it's not really his thing, right? Like,
but it's also, you know, you look at it and it's like he's still in better shape than 90% of the guys playing in the league now. That's what makes him a phenom.
Yeah.
And he gets out of the game at 42, 43, healthy. With a legacy that we'll be talking about for decades. That's pretty impressive. And honestly, it wasn't anywhere until he went with Rochester. Because his time with Orlando and his time with, you know, there weren't, you know, yeah, he was still a top-notch goalie, but it wasn't, you know, Matt Vince 2.0 or 3.0 now. He's more dangerous as a goalie now than he was 10 years ago. And he was a championship goaltender 10 years ago.
That's scary.
That's scary, frightening, good. You know, it's only fitting that his name is Vino, right?
Yeah, you know, better with age.
Better with age. And this is case in point. You know, now not that the Bandits fans need their tires pumped by any stretch of the imagination, but you know, you can't not talk about the accolades and how good he is and how much he's meant to this team. Do they win any of those championships without him in net? Honestly, with all the star power, do they win any of those championships without him in net?
Probably not.
Probably not, no.
I even think back to the 13-4 drubbing of Colorado in a game where everybody in Buffalo was more nervous than anything. They can say whatever they want, but I was in that square before that game 3, and they were, you know, worried that it was going to be like the year previous, where the silence of the KeyBank Center was deafening when they lost in the first championship, and when they won 13-4 and the place went bananas. and the roof raised about 3 inches. Matt Vince, 4 goals in a championship final. Crazy. But he put the team on his back, and the rest of them just kind of, played their game. And then Colorado was so frustrated that they couldn't do anything.
And like you said, Gary, how many players, get to go out basically on the top of their game? Like a lot of these guys are all-time greats. Yeah, but remember those, final couple of years where they really didn't do anything and really didn't look like
further, Shawn, is how many games have they won before they even played it because he's in net?
Oh, yeah, 100%. I mean, again, going back to your thing about, nothing much to prove. I mean, he's going to go down as probably the greatest ever, and it's what's there left to do? Like,
absolutely,
it is what it is. Yeah,
absolutely. I love watching them too because so much energy and love of the game, and they're only getting better. But yeah, that's it. The psycho factor, just having him there already is you've won the cerebral part of the game. Because now teams are trying to figure out, they're not just shooting, they're trying to figure out how to beat them. And that takes you off your specialty. Now, a lot of these guys are so God-given talented that if you ever ask them to explain it, they're not good coaches because they can do it. They don't know how to explain it. Well, if you can start getting in their heads on how they're supposed to shoot and they start thinking to themselves, then they're not going to be very good because they're in their own heads. That's the X factor. That's the bandit factor that they win where other teams may not. And then you have all the other pieces to go with it that Chuggers put around. And I say, we talk about, Keenan as the evil genius. I think under the radar, Chugger as the evil genius who always seems to be able to find that piece that he needs at the trade deadline. He did it 2 years ago when we really thought they were down and out with all the injuries, and there's no business that they had being in that final, and they still won big. Last year was more of a, just being able to stay because they had all the pieces. But it was, 12 games in 10 weeks and just, being able to stay healthy. And if they could do that, then they could cruise. That's what they did. This was another one of those ones where you need to pull rabbits out of hats and find players and move players and get players and and he really wasn't with his, sitting at his desk with his feet up going, okay, everything is in place. No, it wasn't. And he had to go and do the different things that he had to do and leave that with the brilliant mind of Tavares to work with what he's given him and find the thing where everybody is at their strength. And then, we give all the accolades in the world to Tavares for being one of the greatest players ever to play this game. But I think we have to start putting him in that conversation, one of the greatest people to coach this game too. In his years, in a couple of years of being the head coach, he's won 6 championships, major, 3 NLL and 3 Man Cups, on the verge of probably doing 4 and 4. That's unheard of. Let alone all those years of being an assistant coach. Yeah. And again, it's being able to, now granted, he's a teacher as his profession. So his ability to explain what he wants and his ability to think things out is probably way above most people in his category. But put all those factors together, and here you have why the Bandits keep winning. Because you work if the head's dumb, the whole body's dumb. If the head's brilliant, the body's going to come along. Just a thought. It's one thing is to have them play because they're all top-notch athletes all through the league. It's being able to use everybody at their peak performance, game in, game out. And something clicked with a few extra moves, and here we are. That's the X factor, I think. And I'm curious if that will carry him through the playoffs, or will somebody have the antidote? Keenan comes to mind. Keenan and Quinlan come to mind. Where they're scheming and plotting and trying to figure out how to make sure everybody is at their peak.
Yeah.
Cod has showed it here in Toronto that he can get the most out of his defense. And if you can get the offense working in tandem, then away you go. And I think Dawson's the right guy there to be able to explain his messaging and whatever with Sawyer. So it's interesting. There's a number of teams that are working in that kind of thing because it's not good enough just to play great. You need to have on your bench to think great and have the what ifs and the B and the C and the D and in case ofs and what to do if he goes down and how to get him elevated. Just take a look. Like I say, off the practice squad, nobody does it better than Buffalo off the practice squad. And I don't think nobody's had to do it more often than Buffalo has had to do it off the practice squad. Who, by the way, are now in the lineups because they've earned their spots. Anyways, we got a bigger week this week in games, and a lot of them matter. Friday night, Toronto was into Ottawa, and though it may not matter as much to Toronto clinching, they're still looking for a home playoff game, but Ottawa is on life support to try and get into playoffs, correct?
Yep.
So, yeah.
Halifax, Vancouver. I didn't think it really would matter too much, but after this week's showing, you're going to better believe that Vancouver is going to want to make an exclamation point in this one at home to say that that was just a one-off. But Halifax could survive. If there's a team in this league, again, that I can't figure out, Halifax can play top-notch and then play bottom rung all in the span of a week. Calgary and Oshawa, take 2. This time in Oshawa. And, even better, is pro wrestling night over in Oshawa. And bobblehead night. And maybe more things to agree with me here. Vegas and Philly. Big for Vegas. Not so big for the Lehigh Wings. Sorry. Not sure. Audition for jobs. I don't even know what to say about the Philadelphia team right now. Audition for new owners. Anyways, Vegas, it still matters because they're still vying for a playoff spot, right? How about Rochester and Buffalo?
Did we lose Gary?
I think we lost Gary right near the end, too. But we always get the Rochester Buffalo game, and I mean, Buffalo, they're looking for a home playoff game. In Rochester, like we've talked about, I mean, they're also, battling for a playoff spot. They're on life support as well. So again, really important games in there. And like you mentioned earlier, Mike, Rochester did take Buffalo earlier in the year. So I mean, nothing's a given in that one.
Yeah, and then Saturday finishes with Colorado and Saskatchewan, which off again, on again. Huge, important game. It's back on again. So, and both of these teams, while they're tied right now in the standings with Vancouver for first place, both of them have tiebreakers head-to-head over Vancouver. So this is kind of the game potentially for first place again.
Yeah, I expect that one to can be very much a playoff-like game.
Yep. And then we finish on Sunday with San Diego and Georgia. And, that really it's playoff. Again, it's playoff. I mean, Georgia clinched, but they're going to need to win, to kind of keep a game ahead of Buffalo, who they don't have a tiebreaker on, for a home playoff game, which again, the Swarm haven't had a home playoff game since COVID, I believe. So, that would be a nice way to start off in the playoffs.
Do they have enough offense, Mike?
considering they're playing San Diego and what San Diego's putting up recently.
I'm thinking it's a 2-1 game.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly could be a low-scoring affair. I mean, we mentioned all these goalies kind of having stellar years with Dobson and Ward and Rose and the like. Chris Irregolari is having himself despite the record, is having himself a pretty good year. When he's keeping numbers down.
Yep.
It's just he needs that Seals offense to kind of find their gear.
And I think, to one note, we brought it up earlier with this week's game, and I think that's kind of the note on Irregolari is you have to get to him early. If you can get him rattled, he's off his game.
Yeah, he's
so
not.
That's going to be a key. So I think that's going to be the key is you got to get to him early.
Yeah, like I said, I think he's not the same goalie when he's playing from behind, which is interesting. But remember, there were 6 goals, 6 of them that were called back that were crease violations.
Yeah.
So that could have been really an ugly number.
Yeah.
Even if half of them go in, right?
Yeah. You have to rattle him early. Yeah.
Because he didn't look comfortable, and he didn't get a lot of shots. What's the ratio? 7 out of 28. That's 1 in 4 that went in.
Yeah, and that is an off game, to be fair. That is an off game for him. Like, he's not usually that bad, but I still think that's kind of the note on him is, got to get him rattled early.
I'm just wondering about the Toronto offense that only got 28 shots. But yet we're crashing the net. I'll take the crashing the net, though. Over 50 shots that were all, from the center.
Yeah.
Flying all over the place and not a chance of it going in. If they go against Buffalo in the playoffs, if they only put 30 shots on net, but 27 of them are from in close, I like their chances. As opposed to 50 from outside, where I don't like any of the chances. Because they're using the Bandit logo as a bullseye. And that's exactly what Matt Vince wants for shots. So, anyways, just a reminder to everybody, we are on Facebook, we're on Twitter, X, we're on Instagram, we are on Thread, we are on YouTube, as well as on www.streampunkentertainment.com. Please visit us 3-4-5 times a day, especially our flagship on Facebook, where the news is always changing. Summer ball is just around the corner. NLL is heating up towards the playoffs. And the Rebeski tournament is in 2 weeks. And in 2 weeks' time, I will be on a plane 2 weeks today, off to Prague for that tournament. So that'll be another 11 a.m. show. Maybe a 7 a.m. show if, have to be at the airport, how many hours early. Shawn will just be up from Saturday night still.
Yeah. Why bother sleeping at that point?
Right. Anyways, I want to thank everybody for being with us week in and week out, time in and time out, and adding tremendous amounts to the show. We appreciate every comment and everything that goes on. That brings us to final words. Mike, final words to you.
And looking forward to week 20. I mean, 5 teams playing for 2 spots, and there's no guarantee that anyone can even clinch right now unless Ottawa happens to win and everyone with 9 losses happens to lose.
Yeah, it gets more and more math-like every single week. I was just reading through Evan Schemenauer's thing there of probably done before this weekend, and even that was like, oh my God, you have to be an MIT student to try and figure all this stuff out. It's getting more complicated as we go further, not less. Shawn, last words to you.
Yeah, and honestly, I'm looking at the other side of the standings. There may be 5 teams looking for 2 spots to get in the playoffs, but it's getting crowded at the top of that standings. And, I'm going to be in Saskatoon for that Saskatchewan-Colorado game, and I'm expecting both teams are going to leave everything on the floor because that's really, really important to get that home field advantage throughout the playoffs.
Absolutely. I am really enthused on that nothing is really set. That there's no reason to say, I don't want to watch that one because there's no meaning to it. Every game, whether it's bottom or top, has a meaning. And really, the spoilers rule has never been so important as it has been this year of what they can do when they're not in the playoffs. So it makes them even more dangerous than they already are. And they put together, and remember, the parity in this league, any team can beat any team on any given night, which is why it always scares me in a one and done first round playoff, where if there's going to be something crazy happen, that's where it's going to happen. So stick with us, and we will be there. Next week, we are back to our regular time at 8 p.m. The following week, we'll be back at 11 a.m., I think. My math is right, yeah? I'm mathing.
Sounds right.
Yeah,
We'll
sounds right.
And then the following week, the guys will be at it on their own. I will be still in Prague, and Scott will be doing the engineering for the show. And thanks, Scott, for filling in while I'm away. I believe, because I don't think anybody in my room at 3 a.m. wants to hear me yapping for an hour or two. It's not the fam there, so across Canada doesn't give a shit what I say. Anyways, I want to thank everybody again, week in, week out, for being with us. And remember, have a safe week. Keep your sticks high. Keep your spirits higher. Until we meet again next Sunday, 8 p.m. It has been our privilege and pleasure. Take care, everybody.